Tony, a lot of fascinating events happening in the Middle East. Things are unfolding as we speak. What's your assessment of what's going on in Libya right now?
What we are still watching is Gaddafi with a functioning power structure. But it's a functioning power structure that doesn't have an air force, doesn't have air defenses, that's lost significant elements of what was actually a very small force that could be put into combat. We've been talking about brigades, 3,000 to 4,000 men, small battalions, perhaps 340, not really large forces, fighting a rebel group of people with almost no background, no discipline. Again, for all the talk of large rebel forces, probably often in the hundreds, perhaps several thousand. And as a result, they've been pushing each other back and forth across North Africa. Now, it's interesting to remember, this is a country of over 6 million people, and we're talking probably a total of less than 15,000 combat forces on both sides combined, fighting for the destiny of a country where the targets are ultimately the people, the water, and the oil and gas resources. And at this point in time, if it was up to purely military affairs and Libya, Gaddafi would have won. But with the introduction of NATO air power, the US, France, and Britain, and now the UAE and Qatar, basically Gaddafi's exposed regular forces can't survive. The problem for everyone is the rebels are running out of resources, arms, munitions, and Gaddafi's forces are adapting. They're moving into civilian vehicles, they're wearing civilian uniforms, they're mingling with civilians. So we are almost as uncertain now as we were a week ago.
There's a lot of ambiguity in the U.S. strategy. It seems like there's not a clarity that people in America can really, or in the world can really understand. What's your take on that?
I think we need to be extremely careful that if the administration had announced the end state, the end goal objective that many people want and are criticizing the president for, it would have been that we are carrying out this military effort to get rid of Gaddafi. The problem is we never could have gotten a resolution through the United Nations. We never could have gotten NATO agreement. And even today, the resolution allows us to use the wording to go far beyond the no-fly zone. But we can't say that the end objective is to remove Gaddafi.
Why not?
Because if we do that, we are now bound by the resolution. We are bound by the limits that the Arab League can go to. We are bound by the divisions on the part of the Europeans. We are bound by the tolerance of Russia and China in signing up to this resolution. And we have to face the fact that you can't always, when you operate in an international environment with allies and you need UN support, go out and say we're going to do it the American way with American objectives, and we're going to go for the goal that other people don't agree to.
Let's just talk about the rebels for a second. Should we arm them? How can we best help them? There's a controversy over whether we would arm them or not, or whether NATO would arm them.
Well, there's a controversy that's very public. Now, whether any quiet, covert decisions have been made is up in the air. The British did at one point rather visibly send SAS forces in, and they were rejected by the rebels. But since that time, the rebels may well have begun to have intelligence advisors, covert advisors. There are reports that there are intelligence and covert forces on the ground now helping direct the airstrikes so they won't attack civilians or confuse the rebels with Gaddafi's forces. Everybody is divided over whether we are actually watching arms and money move to the rebels. But then we have to remember something else. We talk about this as if they were broad national movements. But originally, each rebel group tended to basically come from one city or urban area in the coastal part of Libya, which is where most of the people are. Now we're talking about Benghazi, which is one very small part of Libya. We're not clear as to who in Benghazi really has a given set of goals, how divided they are. And when it comes down to the rest of Libya, we really don't know what the rest of the people in Libya want. It's clear that many rose up against Gaddafi, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're following the people in Benghazi.
Tony Korsman, thanks for your time.
A pleasure.